All right, I think I'm rolling. I hope you guys are doing well. I miss you guys. It's only been like 4 days, 3 days. I lost track. I'm already going crazy in my house. Yeah, and it's definitely been an adjustment period. Just learning all these new different websites and things to use, and it's been interesting. It's been kind of fun figuring out all this new stuff, but it's definitely a trial and error thing. So I hope you guys are well. You guys aren't strangling each other at home or going crazy or bored yet. It's only day 3, guys. It's gonna get easier as time goes on, but I've been thinking about you and praying for you. So one thing I wanted to do is just give you guys a little bit of a teaching video once a week on Thursdays, either pre-recorded or going live or something like that. Just so you guys still have, make sure that you're interacting with each other and with God, and putting aside some time to maybe pray during this weird, confusing, different time. So we're going to pick up right where we left off in our Messes and Miracles series, and kind of treat it like you would any normal Thursday night in the upper room. So yeah, I'll just dive right in. How many of you have ever been scared to do something before? I hope you all are still raising your hands at home. I'm just picturing you guys there. I'm trying to picture you guys in the audience raising your hand, shuffling around, and me throwing candy at you or something. But how many of you have ever been scared to do something before? Think of a time. Right? I know I definitely have. In fact, many times. In fact, I get scared to be on camera, much like I'm doing right now. This makes me really nervous. I don't know why. It takes so many takes. It's embarrassing, but here I am doing it. And I have a little YouTube video to show you. Maybe you're scared much like this kid was on camera. And I'll show this clip right here.
Right now, 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 happy birthday. Right now, right now, starting now. Happy birthday. Roseanne, okay. I can't. Happy birthday, Rose. Happy birthday, Rose. Happy birthday, Roseanne. No.
Poor guy. Poor little buddy. He couldn't even get a single word out. But we can probably relate to that, right? We all get a little stage fright. Maybe a little butterfly in your stomach, or you get stuck in your head when you're about to do something big. It's natural for us to start doubting ourselves right off the bat. But what can we do, right? When these big things in life come around, and all eyes are on you, you get a little stage fright, right? Today, we're still learning about Moses, but we're focusing on his battle with self-doubt. The dude has a lot of it. Moses was constantly self-doubting, especially in this passage we're going to read. But we will be seeing how God responds to the way Moses sees himself. Right? God uses him in anyways. And the big point today is put your limitations in God's hands and see that his power is limitless. Put your limitations in God's hands and see that his power is limitless. All right, so let's dive into the story. I got my Bible in front of me, so I'm going to be looking down, but we're usually reading out of a different version. I'm just reading off my NIV at home. So open up whatever Bible you have at home, on your phone, on your computer. I don't know how you're watching this, but open it up. And we're going to be in Exodus chapter 3, 11 through, and we're going to start with 11 through 19. And we're still at the burning bush where Moses is talking to God. God is inviting Moses to something awesome here. So 11 through 19. It's going to be a little bit of a story time. There's going to be 2 large sections of reading. So find where that is and follow along. All right, picking up on verse 11. But Moses said to God, they're still talking at the bush, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" And God said, "I will be with you. And this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain." Now Moses said to God, "Suppose I go to Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you.' And they ask me, 'What is his name?' Then what shall I tell them?" Then God said to Moses, "I am who I am." I imagine this big booming voice, right? "I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites, 'I am has sent you.'" God also said to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, 'The Lord, the God your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name by which I am to be remembered from generation to generation. Now go, assemble the elders of Israel and say to them, the Lord your God appeared to me and said, I have watched over you and have seen what has been done to you in Egypt. And I have promised to bring you up out of your misery in Egypt, into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivitites, I'm saying these all wrong, and Jebusites, and a land flowing with milk and honey. And the elders of Israel will listen to you, Moses. Then you and the elders are to go to the king of Egypt and say to him, the Lord, the God of Hebrews, has met with us. Let us take a 3-day journey into the desert to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God. But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hand compels him. Right, so here God is inviting Moses in this big giant plan despite his mistakes. Remember, he killed that Egyptian slave driver, right? Despite Moses' mistakes and self-doubts, God is inviting Moses to be part of his plan, to be part of his great rescue mission. And God loves to invite us into his work, right? Jesus did this all the time with his disciples. He constantly sent them out into villages and they healed people on his authority. And Jesus constantly challenged them, right? So following God can lead us to the greatest adventures we will ever experience. But sometimes we're scared before the journey, right? Sometimes that self-doubt kind of pops up into our head and we get those butterflies in our stomach and we don't want to do it, right? How many of you guys have been like nervous before something big coming up, like a big trip, right? I remember this trip I took in college where I spent all semester preparing for this trip I was going to take to Germany to run the middle school camp on military bases over there. And it was actually a class, which was pretty cool. But we spent all semester preparing, and the night before, all I could think about was all the stuff that could go wrong, right? And it felt like there was a knot in my stomach and I couldn't sleep. Not quite like the Christmas excited feeling, but more like the worried I'm going to stay up all night feeling, right? It was my first time really out of the country, and though I was excited, I could only think about the stuff that could go wrong, right? I was nervous about my performance. I was nervous about how qualified I was to go on this trip. This is like the same feeling, just like every time I go to camp or on a mission trip or something. I doubt myself, but God doesn't, right? Let's see how Moses responded. Moses responds. So we're going to pick up in chapter 4, 1 through 13. Moses answered, "What if they don't believe me or listen to me and say the Lord did not appear to you?" Then the Lord said to him, "What is that in your hand?" "Well, a staff," he replied. The Lord said, "Throw it on the ground." Moses threw it on the ground and it became a snake, and he ran from it. Then the Lord said, "Reach out your hand and take it by the tail." So Moses reached out, took hold of the snake, and turned it back into a staff in his hand. "This," the Lord said, "is so that they may believe that the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has appeared to you." Then the Lord said, "Put your hand inside your cloak." So Moses put his hand inside his cloak, and when he took it out, it was leprous like snow. Remember leprosy in the New Testament? he took out his hand and it was white like snow, like his skin falling off. Kind of a freaky ordeal, right? Now put it back in your cloak, he said. So Moses put his hand back into his cloak, and when he took it out, it was restored like the rest of his flesh. Thank goodness. Then the Lord said, if they do not believe you or pay attention to the first miraculous sign, they may believe the two signs, the second. But if they do not believe these two signs or listen to you, take some water from the Nile, pour it on the dry ground. The water you take from the river will become blood on the ground. So just another miracle, right? Another sign. Moses said to the Lord, O Lord, I have never been so eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue. Right? We can relate to this. Moses wasn't so good at speaking. Just like your youth pastor John here online. I am slow of speech and tongue. The Lord said to him, who gave man his mouth? Who makes him deaf or mute? Who gives him sight or makes him blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you. Speak and teach what you have to say. But Moses said, Lord, please send someone else to do it. Send someone else, right? So God, he's just given Moses a mission from a burning bush and told him how he's going to get the Israelites and talk to the king of Egypt to listen to him and save millions of people from slavery, right? God even gives Moses these amazing signs and tricks up his sleeve, superpowers, if you would say, just signs to show that God was with him and present, that they could really believe what Moses is trying to say, right? So you'd think as a protagonist to this story, as the main character, Moses would look at the bush in the eyes after God was calling him to this, and have the cinematic moment and be like, you got it, God, you got this, right? But that's not the case. Moses starts whining about his speaking skills, right? He pleads with God to send anyone else, right? I can relate to that. I know you guys can probably relate to this too. How many times have you backed down from doing something great out of fear or insecurity, right? How many times have you doubted your own abilities and been afraid of failure? When the opportunity to grow, to step up, to be a leader, the first thoughts in our heads are often our limitations, right? We say stuff like, I don't think I can. People won't accept me. It would be awful if I fail or mess up, right? Someone else could do it better, right? We start to think like Moses a lot of the time when we're presented opportunities for something big, to be a part of a big plan, right? And this has happened all the time to me in life, guys. I remember even when I first got to Believers Fellowship, I remember being asked to lead a life group if I was interested in it when I first arrived on staff, and I turned it down because the first thought through my head was, who wants to learn or listen to me? I'm a terrible speaker, right? I don't want to do this. I'm coming in as the youth pastor, right? I just doubted myself, right? I doubted that my peers could gain anything from me. And man, was I wrong when me and Julia actually started a life group, right? I learned so much from the people in that group, right? I didn't know what God had in store for me. I just needed to have a little confidence in God there, right? Or when I was younger and played a lot of sports, I hit this point where I didn't want to try out for sports anymore because I told myself, I'm not good enough. Someone else is better. Someone else should take my spot. Right? I think this is the way it is even now in ministry, right? Someone else, there's got to be someone else, God. Is there someone else? But God is using me in my doubts and in my mess. We got to remember to put your limitations in God's hands, and we will see that His power is limitless, right? Especially when we start to doubt ourselves. Put your limitations in God's hands and see what He can do with it. And we don't have to miss out on the miraculous things that God wants to do in your life. We don't have to look back on our choices and say, what if I actually did this? We can say yes right now to God and embrace the truth that if we put our limitations in God's hands, we will see that His power is limitless. Right? You guys see where I'm going now? God used Moses despite his limitations. He said he was bad at speaking, but God made him convince Pharaoh to release a whole people group. He saved a whole people group, millions of people, through Moses' bad speaking skills, right? So despite all of Moses' shortcomings, God used him for something great. And he does the same with us, right? So the question is, how can we start to trust in God's power to accomplish great things in our lives, right? And I say the first thing to do is embrace your weakness as God's chance to show off his strength, right? Think about your weaknesses, things you're doubting about yourself all the time, and use it as a chance to show off God's strength, right? I'm going to read 1 Corinthians 12:9. It says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest in me." Guys, embrace your weakness. Be okay with yourselves and your shortcomings. Don't play the comparison game with others around you. Just be okay with who God has made you to be, and see then that his power is working, right? God is at work in your life, even in your limitations. I feel this way right now, being limited only to this room when I work, right? But God is working through so many churches in the area, through me and Johnny, through our pastors, through online stuff, right? And we're going to see some awesome things with how God works in this time where it's so confusing and weird, right? All right, so another way we can trust God's power in our weaknesses to realize that in order to be a leader, you need to be a follower. Now, don't mishear what I'm saying. I'm not saying follow after everybody, right? I'm saying Moses realized over the course of the rest of his life that he was going to be a leader. But he needed to be a follower of God first. That's what I'm talking about. If you want to see God do amazing things in and through your life, then you have to first be in constant relationship with him. Get to know God. Follow him first. Realize that in order to be a leader, you need to be a follower first. For me, I had this guy named Fred. He was a mentor in Young Life for me. I had people like my father, my mom, my youth pastors, professors, even people at this church right now. All I'm saying is surround yourself with people that build you up and challenge you, right? That allow you to feed into your weaknesses so that God can show off his glory and power, right? The moment we start trusting in our own abilities, knowledge, and strength, we will soon be operating out of our own limitations. And so often when we're doing that, we stumble, right? When we depend on God's limitless power to accomplish his purposes, we will see him doing miraculous things for his glory. So put your limitations in God's hands and see that his power is limitless. All right, that's what I want you guys to remember this week. Put your limitations in God's hands and see that his power is limitless. Let me pray for you guys, but first, I am going to be sending you guys some daily devotional stuff on our BFSM website page at believersfellowship.net under the middle school tab. And I'm hoping to upload with Steve some daily devotionals there. But after this talk, I also want to ask you guys some questions. So make sure you have your journal and pencils, and maybe find a quiet place in your house or wherever you're being quarantined at. And I want you guys to have your own maybe quiet time or small group time, right? So what I want you guys to do is read Exodus 14, 19 through 31. All right, so this is skipping forward a little bit, and you're going to read just a little passage. And then I want you guys to answer 2 questions, all right? So you can write this down, your answers in your journals. Write a little bit longer if you need to. But the first question is, how did it turn out for Moses to trust in God's power? How did it turn out for Moses to trust in God's power after you read this passage? All right. And then the second question is, how can you start trusting in God's limitless power in your life, especially with all our weaknesses? All right, so that's the second question. How can you start trusting in God's limitless power in your life, especially with all your weaknesses? All right, so just 2 questions to follow up with and write on. I hope you guys are doing well at home. let me pray for you guys, and be in touch. Reach out to us. We're going crazy here at home, so miss you guys. All right, let me pray for you guys. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this day. Thank you for technology, I guess, for the fact that we can still communicate in some ways during this hard and trying time. Lord, I pray for everybody's view of fear, God, that they don't be anxious about what's to come, but they just learn to trust in you. I pray that we do this well. I pray that we take advantage of this time at home with families together, and I pray that we do it all for your glory. In your name, everybody said, amen. I'm imagining you guys saying amen with me. So, all right, guys, I will be in touch with you soon, but please be keeping updated on all our Facebook and Instagram and all that good stuff. So, but hope to see you guys soon.